Not thousands of you flooding my mentions about Nepal. What have I been telling you? Astrologically, we are in the downfall of colonialism. Last year, did I not very specifically say when we get to 2025, you are going to see everyday citizens hardcore rebel against their governments? And we would have three outcomes. Number one, you would essentially see the military deployed to be used against the citizens. Number two, a lot of these ministers and politicians' positions would be untenable. And thirdly, well, you're not paying attention to all this shit I said about Nepo babies. But thank God, Nepal is not alone. Look at Indonesia, look at the Philippines. I have a long list of countries where liberation is near. Because don't get it twisted, this is not about people rebelling because social media apps were banned. This is not about people rebelling because they're unhappy with the economy. What it is, and what you really truly need to recognize it for, is these are people who have been exploited down to the fucking bone, and it is one of the deepest betrayals. There's a reason I keep telling you, don't concentrate on this, concentrate on this, concentrate on this, and concentrate on this, because the anger lies in the following. These are corrupt, exploitative, nasty, unethical individuals who essentially inherited colonial structures, colonial understandings, colonial norms, and used them to continue exploiting people. And they thought the facade, the mask of illusion of all this, and I'm one of you, and oh God, how bad were those colonizers, we'll rebuild it to be different, is broken. I always tell you, right, all this craziness that's happening around us, don't be scared, because truly sit down with yourself and ask yourself the following. Who is being challenged? What is being dismantled? What is being disrupted? None of those things are linked to anything worth you keeping around. I promise you that, right? So today I actually want to use colonizer-free astrology a little differently. Look, I wanted to have a heartfelt, candid cosmic chit-chat explaining to you all how the facade of the colonizers leaving does not mean their reign of terror and our oppression is over. That's why, astrologically the downfall of colonialism is as crazy as it is, because we're not just confronting the ghouls that we're used to. We're also confronting with how they poisoned our people, and those ghouls now wear different masks. And sometimes the hardest thing about it is it's faces that we recognize and we think we ought to trust and love. So you know the routine. Grab a cup of jar, get comfortable. Let's have our candid cosmic chit chat, Hibiscuses. So ironically, I think Rahu, the planet which symbolizes provoking things so radical change can occur, but also symbolizes the beginning of turmoils, destiny, the divine plan being unveiled, and also major freaky ways of deception. Well, it's currently going through the 9 types of Aquarius. And I think in the Aquarius nakshatras, all of this can be explained so effortlessly. So it all begins with Dhanisha. That's Aquarius type 1 to 2. It symbolizes different kinds of wealth. Even the symbol is a drum. Think about what the drums used to symbolize back in the day. They gather people together. It turns something into a celebration. It communicates with the gods. So look at it like this. All colonial economies were built not to be self-efficient. Colonialism is simply a financial venture, and it needs to put into place exploitative processes, horrible understandings, so just make it as easy as possible to steal. Think of it like this: the economies were stealing natural resources and knowledge to take back home. Even like the infrastructure of travel was not about helping people, it was to get those resources out. If you look at history, the colonizers used to basically obliterate local markets so they could dominate and be essentially the one who benefits the most. And again, this is what the banks, this is what a lot of our financial institutions were built off of, is essentially that exploitation of labor, that thievery, that violence. So by default, after what we think is liberation, a lot of us inherited the colonial exploitative norms. We are still dependent on exporting our people, our resources, our knowledge to make money. We're still at the mercy of what colonizers deem as valuable. So even though we know what we have is deeply valuable, they'll take it for pennies and make us act like we should be thankful. Long story short, when you look at the connection between what colonizers did and what our people are doing, nothing has changed. They just inherited it and now they're using that tool. When you look at Dinishta, some of the gods it's associated to have religious stories about them essentially competing and raiding for wealth. Rahul's gonna fuck you off because it's showing you not just how your wealth is being siphoned away from you, but the actual violence, the manipulation, the deceit, the true nastiness of it. And then I can't help but think about how Dinishta is symbolized by different musical instruments. We're being shown how we're used as instruments by these people. And again, Dinishta has a power to bring fame and recognition and has a certain charm to it. So i.e., we know how we've been duped. This is the whole point in the astrological fall of colonialism. We never had liberation. It was all an illusion. So now we wake up to all those illusions and yeah, bit by bit, we handle business. Now I want to talk to you about Shatabishka. That's Aquarius type 3 to 6. Its power is the power to heal, and it often deals with, feelings of low self-esteem, fighting different, forces within inside of ourselves, feeling conflicted, feeling unsure. Interestingly enough, uncovering the truth. And it's also ruled by Varuna, who's the god of justice and delivering karmas. So the OG Saturn before we knew him as Saturn. So I want you to reflect on how much colonialism creates internalized hate within inside of ourselves. Think about it. It was justified through racist ideology. The inherent superiority of the colonizers' language, etiquette, religion. So all our ancestors and their local and indigenous practices, personalities, expressions, it basically made you to feel inferior, right? So therefore adapt us or be animals. Again, we were forced to even adapt their education and their systems of learning. Now look where we are in a big 2025. Where do all those exploitative politicians come from? What do they mimic? We have the same relationship to them that our ancestors had to their oppressors. Nothing changed. It changed a certain costume, that's all. So again, when you're seeing all these corrupt politicians challenged, are you noticing a similarity in patterns? All their kids are nepo babies who overindulge in a Western lifestyle. We can't afford local fucking vegetables, but meanwhile you can import the finest food goods from different countries. You're so impressive because you speak a certain language in a certain way, and we must be fucking stupid because we remember the mother tongues. You see how the math is mapping? Look, if Shatabishka's power is the power to heal, all of a sudden we work out the medicine they've been trying to feed us, all the fake dreams and desires they've been trying to make us aspire to, it was all an illusion. So we just end up worshipping them, being dependent on them. I don't know, we're in some sort of weird haze, but we're waking up. But also it makes you realize you're powerful because they have no money, they have no influence if we don't give it to them. So if you are inherently so weak, but yeah, I'm naturally so strong, what the fuck is going on? And then finally we have Bhuvabhadra, Aquarius type 7 to 9. Now Bhuvabhadra actually contains a religious scripture that involves building the world itself. Now, Bhuvabhadra is also a deeply political nakshatra. So I started thinking a lot about political instability and kind of arbitrary borders. So again, colonizers drew the borders that fucking haunt us to this day. They divided us as communities so we can never unite and be strong. And isn't it interesting, regardless of the country and culture that we come from, the keys to our liberation were handed to some of the most problematic, ass-kissing, discriminatory fuckers. The keys were never given to us. But yet the colonizers still make money from our countries today. Are the dots connecting? Long story short, what I'm trying to say is we do not have the justice, fairness and safety that we deserve because the journey was never began. These puppets were installed. They inherited the colonizers' tools and playbook. And for some reason, we got so distracted that they look like us and kind of sound like us that, I don't know, we just stopped. And I think for too long, we keep hoping and praying they're going to change. And now we understand it's no longer the case of choosing the lesser of evils, but finishing the job that our ancestors began. But it's going to be more difficult or more emotional, shall I say, because the colonizer is not coming in the form that was so fed. Even then, don't you think that's a distraction? These outsiders are so bad. Remember what they did to us historically. Okay, but if what they did to us historically is what you're doing to us now.